a data center. And this is at roughly 60 decibels. I picked up one of these. It's a decibel meter. And this is approximately, if I were going to guess, about the sound level that neighbors would hear in the surrounding neighborhood. So if you could just imagine going out wanting to do your gardening and sitting on your porch swing, I'm not sure how much you'd hear of the wildlife, and for at least for me, it wouldn't be very peaceful. The other thing that was told to me, and I live in Park Place, which is a little like where Park Place in some places is probably a mile from the data center. And when I was out canvassing, telling people about the first meeting that we had, I talked to one of the neighbors who had a friend who worked, they were at a party, but they had a friend who works at these data centers. And when I was telling him about this, he said, oh yeah, you'll hear it in Park Place too. And just remember, it's not one building, but this plan is for at least 12 buildings, which even if it's that one center at 60 decibels, it's going to compound if you're adding additional buildings. So this is what we're dealing with in addition to a myriad of other problems. So anyway, that's why this is up here, so you can get an idea of what it will be like. So again, welcome everybody. We're really glad that you're here to learn about Farmington's planned data center. My name is Kathy Peregrino, and again, I'm a resident in Park Place. It's about a mile northwest of where the data center is proposed. And imagine again, just living 250 feet away from this.
I'm Nancy Arsted, I'm on Beaumont Avenue.
So again, we're really glad you're here. We're going to briefly go over a bit of general information and history, and then we're going to get into the updates, where we're currently at, and what you all can do to make a difference and help out.
They're free to pursue their dreams.
Yeah. Okay. It's pretty astounding. Whoops. There we go.
According to this.
Okay. So again, we're glad you're here. You can see here in the lower left-hand corner, that's where the planned data site is. And a couple of changes, a couple of updates for the group. Our old name, was the Environmental Coalition of Farmington. The new name is now the Coalition for Responsible Data Development. We want people to understand that we're not against data centers, okay? We know that's the future. But we also know that when they're planned, that we want them to be done in a safe and responsible manner. So this new name reflects who we are in a better way. So again, for those of you who may be new, and this will be brief, what is a data center? And what is a hyper-scale data center? So first of all, it's not your quiet office building, as you obviously heard. Data centers require huge amounts of power. We'll get into that. There are lots of servers inside. You saw that initial picture. That would be inside a data center, one of the data centers. They create a lot of heat, and then they use a lot of water to cool, just an incredible amount of water. And also, when they build these data centers, they make them so that they can grow, easily grow on the same property. So they future-proof them and make it easier to add more. And they cluster, and you've probably seen that in the newspapers. we get one data center plan and we hear about non-disclosure agreements and so on, and now all of a sudden, we're hearing about more. We're hearing about some in Hampton, and we're hearing about some in,
Empire.
what's that, Empire, and then I think I heard there was
Apple
another one,
Valley.
Apple Valley,
Faribault.
yeah, so
Cannon
it just,
Falls is-
everybody has a story about where they're hearing they're growing, and I mean, it's like a pox. So how did we get here? Well, in January, it moves fast. In January of 2024, Independent School District 192 sold 188 acres, contingent upon rezoning to tract land management of Colorado. Then in April of 2024, Fountain Valley Golf Course also sold to tract, contingent upon rezoning. Most recently, I'm sorry that doesn't show, not sure what happened here, I'll tell you. In November of 2024, the lands were rezoned from agricultural and residential to MUCI, which is mixed use commercial industrial, which is a little bit of a misnomer, and we'll talk about that later. Prior to this, the lands were zoned agricultural and residential, and this center is surrounded almost entirely by residential property. So what's Farmington's plan here? Well, what we do know, obviously, is that a hyperscale data center campus is planned. The plan is to have 12 buildings ranging anywhere from 50 to 80 feet in height, unlike what current residents are able to build, along with a 20-foot berm with landscaping that's promoted to be able to mask the site of an 80-foot tall building. Good luck with that. And the setback for this is just a meager 250 feet. So who's planning to occupy? Maybe we know more about that now. And that would be on 343 acres with 2.5 million square feet of building space worth of data centers. Maybe we know more. However, we still don't know at this late date. This information is being withheld from Farmington residents. Transparency is a huge issue. Our city leaders are not being upfront with us, and this really should be public information. And we mentioned this before, but the golf course owner that is selling this property, Bryce Olson, he wasn't given that information either. So he thought that this would be low buildings, like 1 or so stories, and he had no idea of all of these issues either. So Tract makes a really convincing pitch. And by the way, Tract is the land developer that is the main culprit involved with all of this. So there are things we don't know, but there are things that we do know. So Tract is promising to pay for changes to infrastructure in order to accommodate the development, but please consider what has happened to other communities as you think about this. So we do know, again, that setback from residential buildings is only 250 feet. It will occupy 2,500,000 square feet. And the property is being spot zoned. In other words, they made this, in this one separate place. They changed the zoning to create an industrial operation right in the middle of residential homes. So what Farmington is trying to do is actually illegal. Tract has presented many, at this point, city council and planning commission meetings and one public meeting. Their number one tenet, this is Tract, was not to put data centers in residential communities. Yet this is exactly what Farmington, under Tract's guidance, is doing. They're taking a single-use industrial operation in the middle of residential homes, and that's classic spot zoning. The city had a comprehensive plan with these parcels that were originally zoned as agricultural and residential, And now it's been, again, spot zoned to mixed-use commercial industrial. And again, more on that later. So how will it impact the community? It will take up to 2.93 million gallons of water per day. So it will also, and right now, by the way, Farmington currently uses approximately 2,287,627 gallons of water per day. Data centers use a lot of water. And ultimately, think about this, who will pay for that? And how will our waterways be affected? Think about the Vermilion trout stream. What will happen with that? So, couple things about that. In its response to the, called AUAR, which is the Alternative Urban Area Review, it's the plan, the guide that outlines all of this that you can find on the City of Farmington website. Melissa Collins of the Minnesota DNR states that the existing water infrastructure does not suffice for the water demands for data centers in 2 sites. Now multiply that. Also, because of the protected status of the Vermilion River and interconnections with the Prairie du Chien, Jordan, and other aquifers, pumping massive areas of this city is unsustainable. Roger Jancic, also of the DNR, states that added level of wastewater flow may exceed the existing regional wastewater conveyance system. So the risk to all of us is system backups, untreated sewage in basements or in the environment itself. Tract representatives are claiming that cold air in the winter will replace much of the water use. Then they went on to say that the water would really only be needed about 2 months of the year. Cold air in May or June or September, really? They also said that efficiencies have improved water usage as compared to old data centers, but we really don't think that that technology has improved, or maybe it has, but to what extent? So why then does the site plan call for a new water tower on the data center campus itself? Remember, everyone in Farmington gets their water from a well, whether it's a private well or it's a municipal well. Water is a finite resource. Between, let's say, the Niagara Water Bottling Company in Elko and then Waterford now fighting the dewatering mine, and farmers who have applied for pumping permits for irrigation in record numbers this year, just imagine. This kind of use is it just strikes me as unsustainable. And let's talk about electricity. Data centers are electricity hogs. So the area of the planned data center would use anywhere from 26,943 tons per year to 6,911 metric tons of greenhouse gases. So they're huge polluters too. In the same area right now, Farmington currently generates 205 metric tons per year of greenhouse gases. So, I mean, those numbers, just, you know, in terms of just very large and relatively small, are striking. So this load requirements for data centers for AI, this is, you know, for artificial intelligence, are staggering and they're unprecedented. Existing customers are at risk. A few hyperscale data centers used for AI would use more electricity than 6.8 million residents. Rapid addition of enormous inflexible loads will negatively impact other customers. And also, AI is what is driving the need for data centers. So in this case, Tract still, again, is not revealing the end users. They are asking to rezone based on hypotheticals. What has happened in Northern Virginia, where they have a huge data center problem, is an increase in the electricity rate, and how is that saving money? And who's really going to pay? Just imagine what's going to happen to our electric bills. So just a few photos of data centers in general. This is our golf course, imagine. I don't think I'd want this in my backyard, would you?
All right. Okay, what has happened since October? Okay, on November 4th, the City Council voted to rezone the land to MUCI and to amend the comp plan to match it and allow for the zoning. November 18th, they voted in the final plat and the final PUD for the project. And then December 2nd, they voted in the development contract between Tract and the City of Farmington. So they are on a fast track, and they are on schedule per their goals they provided in June. How did we get here? We got here by predatory tactics by Tract. There are many articles that highlight concerns about predatory tactics used by data center developers and their effects on local communities. These are being used across the country right now, and they are very effective. These tactics were pulled from 4 different articles. You will find that many of these will feel very familiar. The key issues: lack of transparency in project details. Developers fail to disclose the full scope of their projects, such as water and energy consumption, noise levels, and environmental impacts until late in the approval process. Aggressive land acquisition. Developers purchase large swaths of land, and in some cases they demolish existing properties to make way for new facilities. Promises of economic benefits. Developers promise job creation and economic boost, but the actual benefits to the community can be minimal, as data centers often employ only a small number of people. Exploitative zoning changes. They lobby for changes to zoning laws which can disrupt existing community plans and allow development in areas previously designated for residential or agricultural use. Underestimating environmental impact. Developers downplay the environmental impacts such as high water usage in drought-prone areas or significant energy demands that strain local grids. Ignoring community concerns. Public engagement and meetings are often superficial, with developers disregarding or downplaying residents' concerns about noise, traffic, and quality of life. Greenwashing sustainable claims. While promoting renewable energy usage, developers omit details about their carbon footprint or other environmental costs, misleading communities about their true impact. Fast-tracking approvals. Developers pressure local governments to expedite permits and approvals, leaving insufficient time for public review or debate. Dividing communities. Developers often create divisions by offering incentives or donations to specific groups, undermining united community resistance. Overloading infrastructure. New data centers can strain local resources, including power grids and water supplies, leading to higher costs for residents and businesses. And signing NDAs with the cities. Signing non-disclosure agreements prevent transparency and public oversight by restricting public awareness, reducing accountability, creating a power imbalance, obscuring plans to rezone, and keeping tax incentives or subsidies private. Is the City of Farmington being transparent? Farmington is currently in the process of updating their comprehensive plan. This is a copy of the future land use map. This future land use map can be found on the city's website. As you see, their plan is to zone the southern end of Farmington to industrial. See that purple down at the bottom there? The purple zoning on the end, south of the fairgrounds. Did you know this? I will come back to this later. See, our 2 parcels are on the east side, and then all the land west all the way to Denmark Avenue will be industrial.
There's the laser.
Oh, okay, thank you. What are NDAs? This is what developers use to keep the cities quiet. The parties involved: The disclosing party shares the confidential information, the receiving party agrees to keep the information confidential. The scope of the confidential information can vary. NDAs can keep many different items confidential, such as development plans, financial projections, environmental impact assessments, details of tax incentives, subsidies, and other concessions. The obligations of the receiving party. It prohibits sharing, copying, or using the information for unauthorized purposes. Duration. The agreements can specify how long the information must remain confidential, often lasting several years or indefinitely for sensitive data. And the legal consequences. Breaching an NDA can result in lawsuits, financial penalties, or other legal remedies. What do we know and not know? There is something called the Sunshine Law. It requires government entities to provide data promptly upon request at a reasonable cost. All of us have access to that information. You can all go request this information yourselves at any time down at the City Hall. We requested all NDAs between technology park entities and the City of Farmington since 2018. We received 3 different sets of NDAs. We know we have the Bengal project on the west side of town. We know that that's on Pilot Knob and Highway 50. So I'm assuming most of you know that there's going to be a data center on the west side of town. And then we have the track project on the east side of town. And what about this third project? We don't know. Now remember the map we looked at where the southern end of Farmington is industrial. Is it going there? Where is it going? We don't know. I've emailed the city, I've emailed Tony, I get no response. Tony is the
Planning
planner.
manager.
City planner. But he has signed all 3 NDAs, so he's not gonna talk. We should know this. This is information that we as residents should know. So your guess is as good as mine what that third set is for. Let's see. Another comment about the Sunshine Law. I requested all emails and documents between the City of Farmington and Tract from 2018, but and I got a quote from the city for $8,000, and they wanted money up front. Okay, so after much delay and back and forth, I had to get I went to the state auditor, got a guy involved. He had to get involved, and he called the city, and after much back and forth, just last week, I got a new quote. It's less than $400. Tattling here a little bit, but the fact that I had to get a state employee to go in and make the city do something that's fair, that's not right. I shouldn't have to get a state person involved just to get documents that I have a right to get. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about transparency. This is just another point. There is very, very little or no transparency. And then Hampton, we know, is getting 4 data centers, I've heard. And then we just talked about that. We know one is probably going into Northfield, and some in Cannon Falls, we just heard at a recent meeting. They're coming in everywhere. So.
Do you have any more information on the Hampton ones? I'm kind of in the battle of the one, right by Little Oscars, but like you kind of mentioned there, found out through obtaining the NDAs. You know if that's, I'm gonna say, kind of maybe a for sure thing? I mean, because I only know of the
We
one.
got an email from somebody from Hampton. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I can speak because I actually got one of those emails, and there's 4 going into Hampton. I can't tell you exactly, but they were sent to me. General people went in and filled out for information
Sure.
on non-disclosure agreements, and
In
4 show up on a map, and 1 is real close to town.
Okay,
So, and then I think 2 are on the southeast side of Hampton, and 1 is on the northwest side.
okay.
And the Bengal project is for sure too?
It's being worked on, like,
I think Bengal is farther ahead than,
Further ahead than ours.
fucking
you know,
Hall
Bengal is
East
further
Road.
ahead than ours is.
And it will be bigger.
Is it?
No, Bengal isn't bigger.
I
Yeah,
don't think.
it'll be 3 million square feet are proposed,
Yep.
so,
Yeah, and that goes all the way to Flagstaff.
yeah,
We won't hear details on that because you don't have to ask permission to require rezoning or anything.
correct, yep, it's all
Yeah, that was
zoned
already
industrial.
zoned industrial, so,
Then there'll be even a bigger one in Rosemont, across the road from the one being built, that one's supposed to be 4 million,
Yep.
so,
There's a third one that's going to be announced that's coming into Rosemont too.
that's, I think I heard that, so.
So are these are the biggest in the United States, if I'm not mistaken? Holy crap.
As far as Hampton's concerned, they have a city council meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow
If
evening.
you can make it to there might be some more information on that.
Well, I'm on the agenda, cause,
Self-service hours will begin after
I,
closure.
and I just signed up as a data center committee, just to hopefully open the door up so people have the opportunity to
La biblioteca cerrará
come and
en
speak a
30
little bit,
minutos.
that type of
Si
a deal, because they're,
necesita que
they've
le
been
lleven a
pretty
su
closed
casa,
off
pídalo
about the
hoy.
deal, but
Si
it's,
necesita
it's
ayuda,
kind of early,
acuda al mostrador
but
de servicio.
it's,
Repetimos, la biblioteca
it's like
cerrará
everything, they
en
wanna
30
keep everything in the
minutos.
dark, they aren't, they just keep saying it's early, it's early, it's early in the process, well, I know what happened 6 months down the road. Last month, they approved something, I'll guarantee you, they could not repeat back to me what they approved. As far as like amendments to the, they're just in the, like the scoping document of the AUAR. They changed a few things and I know none of them were paying enough attention to get it, but they approved it anyway.
So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna finish this part of the presentation and then we'll definitely wanna open it up for
Sure.
discussion afterward. So that we
Yeah,
can
sorry
get
to
it.
interrupt. That
No,
was-
that is okay, we're, I
That's
mean,
good.
we get
that's
it.
good. Okay. Okay, which plan is more responsible? Here's a chart comparing the Meta project in Rosemont that's already under construction to Trax project in Farmington. If there is no way around this and the city is intent on pushing this project through, we ask for more reasonable restrictions on the project. A member of ours researched this information and created this chart. Our project is 3.6 times larger than theirs. Despite their smaller size, the Meta project has no residential neighborhoods adjacent to the property. Their setbacks of the buildings are substantially greater and their building height substantially less. Their square footage is at 715,000 square feet versus ours at 2.5 million. Their building height is under 40 feet, our building height is up to 80 feet or 8 stories. See their setbacks at 1,365 feet, 900 feet, 600, 765 on all the sides, compared to ours inadequate 250 feet.
What's the 50 feet for? Is that the substation, I believe?
Substation,
That can be 50 feet.
right behind me.
Wow.
Yeah, 50 feet. Here's a map of their setbacks. The setbacks put the buildings deeper into the land, reducing the impact to the community. Here's an aerial view. See no residential neighborhoods adjacent. Here's another view showing the completed project, showing the natural buffering around the perimeter. And then here's ours. In contrast, here's the track project. Buildings going almost all the way to the edge, minimal setbacks 250 feet. Notice all of the residential homes on both sides and even between the two parcels. The city will not budge.
Click one more
There
time
you
and
go.
it'll show it up real close.
Oh.
There. So you can see, this is just an example, these are homes right along here. We couldn't get it clearer than that.
And in between, and
Yep, homes right along here.
you can see how close these massive
the
buildings
river.
are to the homes.
River's on the property too.
Okay, here's the Meta data center. Can you start this?
Just click it and it'll go.
Oh, okay.
There's gonna be no wildlife in all of town. What the hell?
Here's the metadata center construction in the evening, taken from Highway 42. This is similar to what Farmington residents get to look forward to right next to our homes. This will take years to construct. Construction will be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturdays, and Sundays will be used to dewater the land. They will be able to construct outside those hours by requesting and getting approval from the city.
24/7 in Farmington.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, realize this is almost 1,000 feet from the person taking the video. We're gonna be 250. Okay. Here, I'm gonna play just about a 6.5-minute clip of Steve Wilson. He's attempting to talk sense into the council. We just want to show you how Steve Wilson tried to stand up for the residents. And sorry for it's a little clunky as he's looking for information a couple times.
My opinion about the project is no different than it was I mean, this decision today has tormented me for the past 2 weeks, and, you know, I don't feel comfortable with this. I genuinely do not feel like the public has had an opportunity just to complain for a session or two. That's my own opinion. Now, it is true, and the city attorney is true, that the planning commission is the vehicle to do that. It would be a courtesy at our end. But I do appreciate that a couple of our residents allowed me to kind of check out, you know, the view from their back property today. For the heck of it, I decided to drive up to Rosemount, and I just want to, I mean, for the perspective, you know, I think this is the part I really would implore my peers to consider, because whatever we do here is going to be the standard for whatever we do in the future, and we are the body that is ultimately in control. Staff does a very nice job of doing their part, and it wouldn't be relevant for us to be critical of staff recommendation. They do their part, but ultimately it's our decision as the elected officials to do our part. So I'm looking at, and boy, this is moving slowly. So I was up at the Meta data center. Now keep in mind, Meta is about 700,000 square feet. This proposal is about 3.6 times larger. So proportionally, you would think that maybe the standards might look different, and if I can get this darn thing to pull up. But and it's just, yeah, going crazy on me, so I'm not gonna do that to the public while they're watching. The bottom, oh no, here it is. Maybe at some point I'll get it here. The bottom line is the setbacks so on County Road 42, the setback for County Road 42 is over 1,000 feet. Now keep in mind the entire Meta project, there's not homes anywhere nearby. I mean, there's a couple of projects that are a little bit down the way, but where it's situated right now, there's actually nothing else right by there. There is a 1,000-foot setback in one area, 900 in a different area, 600 in a different area, and there's also unique setbacks for the electrical substations. And so I think, you know, this is our first run at doing this, and I do think members of the public have made some really good points with the fact that we need to slow down and do it right, not only for our taxpayers, but quite frankly for the developer as well. I mean, we need to make sure that we are the ones that are essentially collaborating and making those important decisions. The other point I was going to make here, which again, this is still not pulling up, so we'll just leave that part alone. You know, being out in Jeff's backyard, 250 feet is hardly anything. You know, I think that we should really slow this down. We need to look at would a 750 or 1,000 foot setback. And the reason I asked Tony about the number of buildings, this is the point I was going to make, the reason I asked Tony about the number of buildings is when we're talking about setbacks, the number of buildings is incredibly important. So if we have, you know, up to 12 buildings, that's going to be situated on this parcel much differently than 6 buildings is going to be. So, you know, and I know you know this, Tony, so, you know, if you can imagine, let's say 8 buildings, the setbacks are probably going to be different, but if we define the setback, you know, requirement as being 250 feet, well then we as a city have boxed ourselves into a corner. And I'm going to tell you right now that if I lived on Calico Court and I saw 250 feet out and the possibility of a 50-foot building, that's terrifying to me. That is way too close. You know, we can argue or talk about the distinction between mixed-use, commercial, industrial, and industrial. I personally believe this should be zone industrial, but then again, I didn't support the rezoning last week, that's my own personal opinion. And I do think it's super important for us to have more thoughtful discussions. You know, this is two critical decisions, or two massive decisions within a 2-week time period. I don't think it's a wrong idea at all for us to delay this, and I would make a motion to table this.
Are there any other comments or questions for Tony?
First, you got a second on this motion.
There's already a motion on the table, and Dave, with all due respect,
That would be the process.
Dave, with all due respect, I'll handle it. There's a motion on the table.
You can let Josh let him do his motion.
Yep, hold on one second. Let's
Can I make a minor clarification to this statement?
Well, sir, I mean, the only thing, it is my own. What?
600 feet is to the guardhouse on the east side. That's, but it's 1,000 feet around everybody's house. 600 feet is to the guardhouse.
Are you referring to Meta?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I'm looking at the
Yeah, I
agreement.
know it's just-
Yeah, no, I mean, like, literally, I have the December 21st packet from last year pulled up. And if I hadn't scrolled ahead, I'd be right there and have all the numbers. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Actually, I will read this, because unless the city of Rosamond's documents are different. So, and I think this is super important. County Road 42, 900-foot setback. Blaine Avenue on the east, 600-foot setback. On the south, 765-foot setback, and then on Audrey Avenue, of which there is a housing development going in that area, 1,365 feet. The substation on Blaine Avenue, 504 feet, and on the south, 192. That's why I think us as a council need to talk more about this, because 250 feet is not going to cut it in this area.
How much of that feedback have you given directly to staff who have been working with TRAC on this project over the last 6 months?
I have, you know, to be honest, I've not given staff this specific comment. I will just leave it at that.
So you got berated there a little bit, but, okay, so what happens now? What happens now? The city sends the amended comp plan to the Met Council for approval. The Met Council has 60 days to approve, the bar is low. Once the Met Council approves the amendment to the comp plan, the land is automatically zoned MUCI. No additional steps will be needed to be taken by the city. And then this will give TRAC the zoning they are waiting for. They will purchase the land as it will now be zoned MUCI, and it will allow for the project to be built. That's where we're at.
What's the date on the 60 days? Do you know when
They don't have it yet. I know they don't have it yet. I know that as of today, they still don't have it at the Met Council yet. Good question. How is Castle Rock Township involved? Well, Castle Rock Township annexed both parcels of land to the city of Farmington. In the OAA, the original annexation agreement, signed in 2017, the city of Farmington agreed that they would not rezone the annexed land to industrial commercial without the approval of the town board. And here's the paragraph. With regard to any proposed industrial or commercial use of property, the Planning Commission and/or the City Council of the City of Farmington shall not adopt an initial comprehensive plan designation for any property located within the annexation area or subsequently modify, change, or alter in any way that initial comprehensive plan designation without the consent of the town board, which consent may not be unreasonably withheld.
Castle Rock meets tomorrow night at 7.
Yes.
We'll talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah, yep, that's important.
Castle Rock meets tomorrow night at 7. Okay, the city of Farmington continues to move forward without the township's approval. At this time, a meeting is pending between the city of Farmington and the township. I know it was scheduled once, I don't know if it's been rescheduled. The OAA states that they are required to meet at least once to try to resolve any dispute. Then after that meeting, the township can act if that is what the township board decides to do. So we want to tell Castle Rock Township to fight. Meetings at the Castle Rock Township can be found on their website, but please consider attending Tuesday night, tomorrow night, December 10th at 7 p.m. You can provide a public comment at the beginning of the meeting, and we do have a coalition member who is on the agenda to speak tomorrow night about the concerns. So if people matter, people showing up matter. So, and you don't have to be arrested.
Is that the last spot to stop this?
Please check out
Is it
materials,
Castle Rock?
computer work at printing.
We'll talk about, we'll get to that.
Planning to stay after close. Please be sure.
Does the Castle Rock Township understand the magnitude of this? Do they know?
Yes, they do.
I think they do, but, I mean, I don't think it's wrong to keep, keep the pressure on.
Sandy?
Yeah.
Can I speak to that? Because I live in Castle Rock and have been involved. I was a board of supervisor till I got, and on the planning commission for 13 years. I just got voted out in March, but that's okay because I get to work with you people. I talked to Pete Schaefer, who is chair. He said they have to follow what's in the annexation agreement. The first step is to schedule a meeting with the City of Farmington to meet and talk about this. Then, if there's still no progress, the second step, I believe, is mediation, and the third step is litigation, which would be going to court and suing them. So there is a process set up in the annexation agreement. And if you all come tomorrow night, you don't have to speak. Just standing in the room lets them know how you feel. We do have speakers tomorrow night.
People matter. Real quick, this is just, there's a video on YouTube, and I have information back there on the table. I just wanted you to know about it because it explains our situation very well. And a lot of people don't like reading, but if you have a neighbor, anybody in Farmington or anybody outside Farmington that doesn't understand the timeline and our situation, this video is good to pass on. What is the coalition doing? Well, we spoke at the Met Council and we sent a bunch of information to the Met Council, but remember their bar is very low. We want to ensure Castle Rock Township is committed to legally challenging the City of Farmington. So they're meeting tomorrow night, and they'll meet beyond that, and we'll try to keep people updated on our Facebook page. So try to like us on, or get on our Facebook page. Continue to spread the word through news and media about our fight. And if anybody has a cousin that works at 60 Minutes or any brother, get us on there, that'd be great. Get us Leslie Stahl, get an interview. And then we have legal action happening, and then we have fundraising, and we're seeking donations for the legal fund. So what I'm going to do now is going to turn it over to Drea if you want to come up, and then after that I'm going to have Denise talk real quick about our GoFundMe, and then Kathy's going to talk real briefly about something she's doing at the state, and then we're going to have Q&A.
And also at the very end, if anybody wants to take the 20 minutes to kind of watch, I think the video is like around 19 minutes and some odd seconds, we'd be willing to show it. You could watch it here too if you want.
Hi, I'm Drea Dauphin. I live in Castle Rock Township. I live on the east side of this proposed data center, hyperscale data center, and I'm part of the legal team for this group, and I'd just like to say that we served the City of Farmington last Monday, December 2nd, and I went and presented that to them as well, just to make it publicly on the video that night. I was asked to do that. So, and they have 21 days, they actually have till December 20th to respond. As of today, there hasn't been any response yet, but that's not that's not unusual with everything we've had to deal with in the last year, so I'm not surprised. So that is kind of where we're at. I don't have to, I can't really go into a lot of detail right now, but we have filed a lawsuit, and we did email each one of the council members that lawsuit as well. So they all are aware of it. The only thing they gave me was cold faces a week ago Monday when I announced it publicly as well, so. And that's where we're at. And if you have any questions, just come and talk to me, or Peggy. Peggy's part of legal group too, so.
That's all right.
Hi everyone, I'm Denise May. I live on Bering Avenue. I share the property line with the golf course. I just wanted to briefly tell you a few ways that you can help. If you would, we need donations. Our bank account is getting quite low, and we have retained an attorney, and we are in the legal fight. So anyway, ways that you can help if you can. On the back table, there's a jar. You can put in cash this evening if you'd like. You can put in a check to the back table if you would like. Also we have a QR code in the back table that you can, it'll take you right to our GoFundMe page. And also we do have this interesting sheet too that has other ways that you can help, like emailing local, regional, and state leaders, writing letters, spreading the word. This gives you information on where to send a check, if you'd rather do that. Also on the back table is the link of the YouTube video that Nancy has talked about. So anyway, we need your voice. We need funds. So if you're able to help us out in any way, that would be great. So, and also on the back table, if you're interested in joining our email distribution list, there's a way to sign up back there too. So anyway, thanks. Esther?
We just like to ask if you give your email, please make it legible, because we have lots of email addresses we can't figure out what it is. Just try your best.
Print.
Thank you.
Print.
Print, maybe.
Thank you.
Can I ask where the state is in all of this and their responsibility for protecting?
That's what I'm talking about right now. Okay, I'm Kathy Johnson, and it is just wonderful to see and some of the new faces that are here tonight. Just a brief recap. This is also part of how we've gotten here, and I didn't realize this until quite a ways into the process. But 10 years ago, the state of Minnesota incentivized data centers to come to our state by giving them incredible tax breaks. And at that time, 10 years ago, a data center was maybe the floor of a building or a small office building. The average data center used 6 to 10 megawatts, not a lot of water. There was no regulation involved at all, but there probably wasn't a need for that 10 years ago, because nobody could foresee the situation as it's evolved. Then let's go forward to about 2 years ago, and now we have AI coming. I'm sure we see it all the time when you can't get on the internet that AI doesn't try to tell you what to do. And so now we have an incredible hunger for data storage in this country. It not only is from AI, but it is also just from the fact that people live in a digital, our banking is digital. We all have umpteen photos stored that we never go in and clear out, and that ends up clogging up a lot of things. But AI is really the big driver of all this. So now we have incentivized data centers to come with no regulations, no guardrails, and you had the contrast between what Rosemont did and what Farmington is attempting to do in terms of how they're allowing these things into the community. Nancy did a really good job of going through, and I don't need to repeat all the predatory tactics that developers are using, but when the developer comes in, they come in, make the site shovel-ready, they sell off to end users that we don't know who they are, and by the time there's any issues, that developer's long gone. I've been in touch with Laura Dickinson, who is at the Environmental Protection Agency in charge of noise. And they are supposedly supposed to do a noise study before a data center is approved, but in reality,
5 minutes. If you are not a self-service customer, this is your last call for checkout.
in reality, there's no enforcement of it. The EPA comes right out and says,
en 5 minutos. Si no es un usuario de autoservicio, esta es su última llamada para retirarse.
we don't have the manpower to enforce the noise regulations. It would be up to the local jurisdiction, and our local jurisdiction is already sticking it to the residents. I don't know why they would try to uphold any ordinances of that kind. Study after study has shown once, we had a VP come to one of the city council meetings and say, your electricity rates might even go down. That hasn't happened in any cities where data centers exist. As a matter of fact, the opposite is true. And I'll just give you one example, a great study. Atlanta, Georgia has become a big magnet for data centers. The reason that they are a big magnet for data centers is it's fairly close to the East Coast and Northern Virginia, which is where the military, the government, all the business associated for that's what drives the big data center population there. They're full. They don't have any more electrical capacity. They're saturated. So they're moving to Atlanta. Atlanta was promised that they would have a reduction in their energy rates, but this year alone, the average homeowner had an increase of $38 a month in their electric bill. That's an increase that the customers are paying so that they can provide infrastructure for billionaires to come in and make a profit. Same thing's happening in Atlanta with regard to water. A very big bond did a major increase in the reservoir that feeds fresh water to the city of Atlanta. This reservoir was supposed to guarantee the water supply to the city for 50 years. Now that AI and these hyperscale data centers are coming in, they have the developer, the builder of the reservoir is saying, sorry, we can only guarantee the water supply for 10 years. The city's in a conundrum because it took more than 10 years just to get the permits to build the reservoir in the first place. I mean, the data centers, my comment, I was talking to Eva Herskowitz today, who's with the Star Tribune, and my comment to her is, why should Farmington think we're any different than any other place in the United States that hosts data centers? They all see water, light pollution, electricity rates going up, noise issues. The times when they're not a problem is when they're properly located away from residential areas. And that's not what's happening here. So what I have done is to write a letter along with Mo Fashami, another member of our group, to go to the Attorney General and to go to the Lieutenant Governor, asking for a moratorium. Put the brakes on this because there are no regulations. This is an unregulated industry. Probably didn't need regulations 10 years ago. But in today's reality, the data center is a whole different animal now than it was when the incentives were first developed. One of the ways that you can help with that is that, and this goes along with the name change to our group too, we wanted to get Farmington out of it because this really is not just a Farmington issue. It's a Dakota County, it's a state of Minnesota issue. Mm-hmm. I know there's people in the room tonight who are from Apple Valley or from Hampton or whatever. Water doesn't know any municipal boundaries. When we pump water to pull out for this data center that I hope doesn't get built at Fountain Valley Golf Course, that's all of our water. The Jordan vein and the Prairie du Chien waterway belongs to all of us. It doesn't belong to Rosemont or New Prague or Farmington. It's just water. And so one of the things that I'm concerned about, and I hope the state addresses, is concurrent development. In the Waterford mine situation, I've only been to one meeting, but they were talking about water that night and how the DNR is looking favorably upon them for their water usage. Well, how do they take into account all of these multitudes of data centers that are coming in now? This is not an isolated issue, and the state needs to put a moratorium on this. The state needs to get an umbrella so that we can have the DNR, the EPA, I don't need some vice president from little tiny Dakota Electric telling me, oh, there's plenty of electricity here. I need the Public Utility Commission to take a look at that, because they're not looking at Farmington or the service area of Dakota Electric, they're looking at the whole state. We need a moratorium, and
The library is now closed.
I-
If you're not a self-service access card holder, please exit now.
Y'all can stay.
La biblioteca ya está cerrada. Si no es titular de una tarjeta de acceso de autoservicio, retírese ahora.
we would like to collaborate with other coalitions from other communities or other environmental groups. So if you people have a coalition in your community, or if you are a member or know of environmental organizations, sportsmen's groups, Sierra Club, we would like to get a petition of organizations to support us, because ultimately, beyond the Attorney General, I'd like to try to meet with someone from Congress. And I've been told by some wise, experienced folks that if one little coalition goes in, no matter how much research we have, they'll look at it as just one little coalition. But if we have a lot of people who agree with us, multiple groups saying, this is not just a NIMBY, this is not just my backyard. Our backyard is all of Dakota County, it's all of Minnesota, it's all of the Prairie du Chien Waterway. Please reach out and let me know if you know of organizations that we could do a presentation with, and perhaps get an endorsement from various organizations, so that when we do ultimately go to Congress, we're not going as an individual group, but we're going collectively. That's a very important piece. And again, lawyers are expensive, so please think about us on your Christmas list. And there's a QR code back there.
Be a Christmas gift to yourself.
Well, it's just Q&A now, so we'll have various people answer